Hello and welcome to FG Helps, episode number 4. This is the series where we take the knowledge and expertise of our staff, our volunteers and our partners and send it out to you guys to hopefully teach you something that you didn't know before. A bit of an unusual one today because the knowledge that we're sharing with you is mine. It's how to play Dungeons and Dragons. My name is Dan. I'm Media and Communications Coordinator here at Family Gateway, and usually I would have a guest with us for these videos. But we've noticed lately that a lot of people are coming to us and asking about our Dungeons and Dragons club, which I run. And basically how that club works is a group of young people will start with me, they'll learn the game under me before, graduating and going and playing it independently. And because it works like that, quite often when people come to see us and ask to take part, we don't have a space ready. We don't have, that slot ready for that young person to come into. So what we want to do is give you a bit of an explanation, a bit of a crash course on how to play it, what it is. Hopefully you can kind of get to grips with it before you then come and join up with us. So it's weird doing it on my own because my little sheet usually instructs the other person. Yeah, so as I said, I'm Media and Communications Coordinator for Family Gateway, which means I make videos and Facebook posts and website articles and all that kind of stuff. So it's why you see a lot of my face. But I also run the Howden Adventurers Guild, which is our Dungeons and Dragons club every Tuesday night for ages kind of 13 plus. I started playing D&D at university down in Leeds, and it's a wonderful, wonderful game that I love very dearly, and it's what's called a tabletop role-playing game. So me and a group of young people would all sit down and we'll tell a kind of collaborative story. There's lots of different kinds of tabletop role-playing games, but D&D is the most popular, and it is fantasy-based, so we essentially every Tuesday night take over the hub and we're all wizards and orcs and elves and that kind of thing. So let's get stuck into a kind of crash course in how to do it. So like I said before, D&D is a tabletop role-playing game. And that means that it is played generally around a tabletop, around a table in person. You can't play it online, but I think something's lost when you do that. And we really encourage people who are giving it a go to kind of get on a table together. It involves telling a story. You each have your own character. There is a person kind of separate behind one of these who's called the Dungeon Master or the Game Master in other role-playing games. And they will kind of set the narrative, set the scene, narrate what's happening, and then the players will decide what their characters do. There's a few different editions of Dungeons & Dragons. We're coming into a bit of a weird time at the minute. So everything that we play here, everything that I know, is called 5th edition. It's D&D 5e is the shorthand. But D&D have recently released a new version, which everyone is kind of calling D&D 2024, or D&D 1, some people call it. So if you kind of do get into it, if you do fancy giving it a go, make sure you're buying everything for the right edition. It's not the end of the world. They've kind of played quite clever about it in that the new one kind of works with the old one, but for me, buy everything 5th edition, it's way easier. So I'm going to show you a bit about how the game works. But first of all, I'm going to show you kind of the kit that you need. Not all of this is kind of essential. Some of it is. A lot of it, so kind of books and stuff, can be bought digitally at a website called D&D Beyond. That is the official one. You can make an account there and buy all the kind of books that you need. But again, some of it is just kind of toys and extra bits. We're very lucky in that we've been funded by the Greggs Foundation to buy a lot of our kind of extra kit for this. But let's get started. I've got a second camera here. I'm being really posh today. I'm going to try and show you some of the bits up close. So first of all, what you need is some books. You can buy these books individually, but you can get them kind of fancy sets like this. There are 3 main kind of core rule books you need for Dungeons & Dragons. Well, not everyone needs them. Most people will need one. There is the Player's Handbook. Don't know if that camera's picking that up. That is the basic rules, everything you need to make your character, everything about how your character interacts with the world. There is the Dungeon Master's Guide. That is the book the guy behind the screen, so me, would generally refer to extra rules, extra stuff to play with. And then there's the most fun one, the Monster Manual. So the Monster Manual is about all the kind of magical creatures and goblins and ghouls that you'll be fighting. So like I said, those can be bought in paper or digitally. What can't be bought digitally, but that's not the fun, is dice. So D&D requires a kind of magical wide range of dice to play the game. So they're not all kind of your typical, what we call a D6, they're all kind of varying shapes. The most important one is this one. This is the D20. So it's a 20-sided dice. And that kind of does most of the heavy lifting in the game. It kind of makes decisions on if your goblin archer wants to jump over a river, that dice will decide if he does that or not. You will need a character sheet. So this is, again, digital ones are available. It's one of the very few things that I think is better on paper. And it's basically scribbling down what abilities your guy has, how strong he is, how fast he can run, what magical spells can he cast, what sword does he have. And that is, if you're playing the game rather than kind of running it, that is your Bible, that is your bread and butter. You only have one of these per character, for instance. And they become very dear. So a lot of the young people who kind of come to see us scribble on them or draw on them or kind of do fancy things with them. I still have my very first one framed at home. That's how attached you get to them. Lastly, this is a real kind of if you can type deal. You want one of these things. So this is called a Dungeon Master screen. And it kind of hides what you're writing about, what you're scribbling from your players. It's got lots of kind of extra bits and bobs about rules that only the Dungeon Master needs to know. So that's the kind of kit you need, I would say, to get started. I'm going to stop. I'm going to have a bit of a rearrange of the cameras, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how the game works. Right, so I'm back. I've arranged stuff a bit differently. So this is kind of how we play it here. Like I said before, these kind of toys are courtesy of the Greggs Foundation. You do not need this stuff to play. You can just play on like gridded A4 paper. Some people don't even do that. Some people do what's called theatre of the mind and just talk about it. So I'm going to play the role of kind of monster, dungeon master and player here to show you kind of how it would work. So like 9/10 of the game would be out and about in this kind of fantasy world, you know, visiting taverns and getting quests and meeting blacksmiths to forge swords and that kind of stuff. But then there is also kind of combat, fighting monsters, slaying them, getting treasure, that proper 80s lovely adventure stuff. And we're going to do a bit of that. So your dungeon master would set the scene for you, would read out the situation your characters are in, try and be really evocative, and then the players would respond. So a dungeon master might say something like, as you walk cautiously down the abandoned corridor, the smell of acrid smoke fills your lungs, and a sense of dread fills your heart. You see an open set of doors ahead, and hear a snarling beyond. So then it would be up to the player, this guy, to say, okay, I want to take a peek through the door, or I want to, you know, lay a trap for whatever's beyond. It's 1,001 things, whatever you can think of. And then we would refer to this, to our dice. So if this player said to me, I want to take a little peek behind the door, I want to be all sneaky and see if I can see what's beyond. On this, there's different skills. So you would, for instance, use your stealth skill for that. You have a little number depending on how good your character is at that. So for instance, this guy has, I've not played with this guy in ages, has a +2 to his stealth. So I, as a dungeon master, would say, okay, you've got to roll a 14. I would roll a 7, plus my 2 is a 9, doesn't work. So then I would narrate as a dungeon master, okay, so you feel that the dragon spots you through the door. And then we're into fighting. There's a couple of steps to then get into the fight, which I won't kind of go through in this video. But you would be taking turns between players and enemies played by the dungeon master. And you have a certain kind of list of things available to you. So if it was this guy's turn, he could move up to a certain amount of speed and then do an attack or action. So he would say, okay, I move towards the dragon and I pull my mighty longsword and smote him. The dragon has something called an armor class. So he would say, okay, my longsword does +7, roll that. 17 plus 7 is 24, and that beats the dragon's armor class of 18 or whatever. Then he would do a second roll. I'll be right back. To work out how much damage he does to the dragon. So yes, you hit it. How much damage do you do? Each weapon has a dice. I do 8 damage, and the DM, the Dungeon Master, would narrate, and lo, you smite the mighty dragon, and smoke doth fill the chamber as he falls. And that's it. That's D&D combat in a nutshell. Yeah, so that's like a real crash course in how the game works. Kind of a very surface level idea of what it's like to actually sit down and play it. Obviously it's hard when it's just me, because generally there'll be 4 or 5 other people in the room kind of making mistakes and their characters doing stuff, and it's really exciting when it's all together. You kind of get a very good kind of team cohesion going on. So I kind of, whenever I make one of these videos, I make someone sum up by giving us their 5 top tips, and I'm no different. I don't escape from that work. So my 5 top tips are, if you're looking at getting started, buy, maybe not necessarily buy, see if you can get your hands on a player's handbook and just flick through it. That's your kind of your core Bible of it, and that will give you a flavour of what you can do in it, what's available to you, how fun it can be making your character. Second of that, make a character. So those character sheets are available. If you just search D&D 5e character sheet, there'll be kind of PDFs online, and you can make a character with a lot of kind of freely available resources. So D&D Beyond, the kind of basics of that rule set are available to you, and you can make quite an interesting character. That to me is half of the fun, is making your guy. What does he look like? What does he sound like? You know, what magical powers does he have? You can do that on your own without anyone. Get stuck in, give that a go. Second would be watch what's called some actual play. So there's kind of a lot of D&D's getting more popular now. Stranger Things has kicked it right off again, the movie a couple of years ago. There's a lot of YouTube and podcasts now that are called actual play, where people will just sit and play D&D and record it and put it out as a show. Grown-ups, be careful with them. A lot of them are a bit sweary and a bit grown up, and yeah, vet them before you go. And there's a great comic called The Adventure Zone as well. If someone's into comic books, that's all D&D themed. And then 2 really obvious ones. Just give it a go. Just get some mates around. Like, there is no wrong way to play it. If you guys are having fun, the game is working. So I would say get a hold of all the free resources you can, the character sheets, the kind of free rule books. There's a starter set, the D&D starter set. It's got a green dragon on the front. That's got a little adventure in it. You can get ready to go. And yeah, give it a go. It's the best thing to do. Lastly, if you can, join a club. So like I said, ours is a bit full up. It kind of opens in waves. Obviously mine is the best club, the best D&D club in the world, but there are other ones out there. If you do want to get on the mailing list, well, on the waiting list rather, you can email daniel.guest@familygateway.co.uk. We're just about to start a new group, so kind of admissions are a bit closed off at the minute, but we're always kind of growing that waiting list, or if someone drops out, I try and get someone in. That's my 5 top tips. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a bit of a weird one today. I know it's been a bit out of the ordinary, and there's also a million and one things that I wanted to say that I didn't. But you know, if you drop the Facebook message, you get me, you've got my email. You want to ask anything about it, this is my favourite thing in the world, so I'll always talk about it. If you want to learn more about Family Gateway, what Family Gateway do, familygateway.co.uk is always your best bet. And I usually shake people's hands at the end of this, but thank you very much.